Well, hello my beautiful friends, welcome back to Dainty Gifts School of Decor and Decoupage. In today's episode of Crafts With Me, we're going to make some wooden blocks. These are going to be a Christmas present for a little girl. So I wanted to show you guys how I'm going to make them, and maybe this could serve as a little Christmas present idea for you to use as well. So we're going to use some wooden blocks, and we're also going to use these images from Digital Collage Club. As you can see here, we have a name, Bella Sophia. These are one of the most recent additions in Digital Collage Club. They added the full alphabet in this kind of style, so if you wanted to use them in this kind of way to spell out a name, then you definitely could. And I believe these Christmas images are going to be added sometime soon if they've not been added yet. So these are going to be very simple, but also since we have to decoupage each side of them, it's going to take a while. So very few steps, very simple process, but we do have 10 blocks that we have to decoupage each side on. So this might take a little while, but I'm sure that it's definitely going to be worth it. And since these are going to be a present, of course, for a little person, we're going to make sure that we use non-toxic and child-safe products, which of course is very, very important when you make something for kids, pets, to be used for food or anything like that. And anyways, I hope that you're going to enjoy this video. Grab a cup of tea or coffee. I have half a cup of coffee left here. I had the other half while I was setting everything up. Oh, and we have a candle today. It's that time of the year again, so you know, we can bring out the candles. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this little addition, and let's get into it. First thing that we're going to do, we're going to prime our blocks. So even though these blocks are actually really, really good quality, so these were ordered on Etsy. I will link the shop that these were bought from down below in the description for you if you wanted to have a look. These actually came from my home country of Latvia, so these are really, really great quality, and when I received them in the post, it was just, these have been sanded down so well. They're so smooth, all of the edges are literally perfect. I almost don't even want to do anything to them because they are just so beautiful in their own right. But anyways, first thing that we need to do is we need to give them a little prime before we decoupage them. This is untreated wood, so once I apply glue onto it, it's going to seep into the wood. So to kind of prevent that and to give the paper a little bit more grit to adhere to, we're going to prime it with acrylic paint. You can use chalk paint or acrylic paint or primer for wood, whatever you like. I'm going to use this acrylic paint by Daily Art. Just white acrylic paint basically, and I'm going to apply one coat of this white acrylic paint on each side of all of these blocks. I'm trying to keep the coats of paint nice and even so that the blocks stay as nice as possible, and I'm gonna do 3 sides on each block at a time and then move on to the next one, so that by the time I've done all 10 I can then come back around and finish the other ones. This is going to be a very long and repetitive process, so I'm just gonna kind of speed through this for you. Well, I've painted all of my blocks. They're all completely white now. So acrylic paint has lifted some of the fibers of the wood. This is absolutely normal. If you're working with untreated wood and you're painting it or gluing it down or doing anything to it, and you're using a water-based product, it is very likely that it's going to lift some of the wood fibers, and where the wood was nice and smooth before, it's going to be a little bit gritty. So now some of the sides of my blocks have become a little bit gritty, so they feel a little bit like a very fine sand. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a sand on them. So I'm gonna take a little bit of sandpaper. This is number 240. So I've got this big sheet here. I'm just gonna chop it and then fold it in half and just go around all of these sides just like that. I'm not doing a lot here, and I'm just smoothing everything out a little bit. I've sanded them all down, so before we go ahead and do the next step, I'm going to give them all a quick little wipe down just with a dry cloth to try and get some of the dust off. Right, so now my blocks are ready to be decoupaged. We can move on to actually getting our images ready. So again, these are images from Digital Collage Club. So I've got 3 beautiful sheets and there is 60 little images. I don't think I've ever done such a big yet small project. Anyways, it's a very special one, so I'm excited to do it. So we have the name here, which is 10 letters, so we're going to have 1 letter on each block. Then we have 10 images of these little girls here. So again, they're going to go 1 girl on each block. And then as far as I can work out, we have 10 images of Santas, and we have 10 images like this. So there's a like smaller patterns plus like this little yellow Merry Christmas bauble, and then 10 images with just like cute little animals and Christmas imagery. So we're going to pair them up like that and do like 10, 10, 10, 10. To keep it kind of simple, I'm going to do them one side at a time. So I'm going to cut out the letters, decoupage them on. While they're sitting and drying and sealing, I'm going to cut out the next ones. To make the cutting process a little bit easier and quicker, I just got my cutting mat and my blade out. This should make this process a little bit quicker than me cutting every single letter out by hand. Okay, so next I get everything ready for me to be able to decoupage. So I've got one of these cloths. They are big, so I'm just going to cut it in half to make it a little bit more manageable. Got a plastic file that I'm going to use to put my images on and wet them. I recently purchased one of these mister bottles for that furniture painters usually use to to make the chalk paint a little bit smoother. To glue the whole thing down, I'm just going to use my normal PVA glue. So this is trade grade PVA glue, not school PVA glue. Water, glue, then we need a brush, blocks. You don't have to glue them down in order, but I want to make sure that I have all of the letters here. Right, so next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to mist my letters. What this does is, again, if you've seen my videos before, you've probably heard this a million times already, so I do apologize. But if you are new here, water helps paper expand a little bit, which is going to do anyways as soon as you apply it onto a water-based product. So we're doing this beforehand so that paper expands, and then it minimizes the chances of your paper creasing when you're gluing it on. With these kind of small images, it doesn't really matter. It's unlikely that that's going to happen, but just in case. And then I'm just going to apply a coat of glue onto my side of the block. Carefully pick up the paper. And place it onto the block. So as you can see, these images are just a tiny little bit smaller than the actual block itself, but that's okay because we're going to make the edges all nice and pretty as well. And then once I've applied my paper, I apply another coat of decoupage glue over the top to seal it all in. Just rub down your edges to make sure there's no like glue overspills. And then I'm going to sit this to the side and carry on. I've got a lot of these to go through, so I better get going. So I've done all of the letters for the name. As you can see, the glue is still very, very wet. So I don't necessarily have to leave them to dry like this. I can leave them like so, which means that I can do 4 sides or 3 more sides until I have to worry about the glue not being dry or anything. So I'm going to carry on. I'm going to cut out all of these little girls and then glue them onto the next side, and I'll keep going until I've done all of the sides. Okay, I've gone around the four sides of my blocks. I did have to use the hairdryer to just help the glue dry a little bit because it was still a bit wet. And now they are kind of touch dry. They're not fully perfectly dry, but they are dry enough for me to be able to touch them without leaving any kind of fingerprint. So I'm gonna apply the last two sets of the images on the top and the bottom of the blocks, and then we're gonna move on to the next stage. Probably not today though, because it's already gone midnight. Screw it, we're gonna pull a late nighter tonight and get these semi-finished. Well, I'll talk you through all of the steps. So I've applied all of the little images onto the blocks. So the last ones were the top and the bottom. So those I did dry them with the hairdryer a little bit just to get them touch dry, but I'm still gonna place the blocks onto like the other sides that have been dry for longer. And but they are dry enough for me to be able to work on the sides. So ideally what I would like to use is my Liberon black patinating wax, because it's perfect for these kind of sides to give like a nice faded edge. But I have two reasons why I'm not going to use it, and those are well, first of all, it is black wax, and these are very light, very bright and Christmassy, so I think it might be a little bit too much, but I think the colour might be a little bit too much. But also, Liberon patinating wax is a solvent-based wax, so it's not water-based, it's not like beeswax-based or anything like that. It is solvent-based, so oil-based, and it is somewhat toxic. And again, these are a children's toy, so I do not want to use anything that could potentially harm the child in any way, shape or form. Even though, of course, we're going to varnish these with non-toxic varnish, still, just in case, I don't want to, I wouldn't want to take that kind of risk. So what we're going to do is instead we're going to just use acrylic paint and a sponge dabber. So I'm going to use brown and white acrylic paints. So these are again by Daily Art. I'm going to put some of this paint onto my plate. And now I'm going to add brown into it. And then I think I'm going to add just a little bit of green to make it a little bit more earthy toned rather than like a cappuccino colour. And now I'm going to add a little bit of black. So around about there, like a brownish grey. The candle had to be blown out when I started drying the blocks. Right, so now I'm going to take one of these little sponge dabbers, pick up some paint and dab it off on the plate so that there's no like big blotches of paint, and then I carefully dab my sponge dabber over the edges of the block. This is what the blocks look like now that I've done the edges. I do now feel like the grey might be a little bit too cold of a colour, so I'm going to take some more of this brown, add it into the corner here, and a little bit of black, and mix them in here. And I'm going to take a nice clean sponge and not repeat the whole process, but I'm going to take this colour now and mostly focus on the corners, so I'm not going all the way in, just kind of going over the corners and bringing it in, so almost leaving like a middle part here untouched with this grey colour. Well, here we are. I went over with the second coat of paint and I think that they are all looking so much better now that the darker brown is also on and we have a little bit of dimension going on here. I just love these blocks. I think that they've turned out super cute. So of course we have one last step that needs to be done, and that is a varnishing. I'm not going to do this now on camera. I'm going to do this tomorrow off camera, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use two varnishes. I'm going to tell you why. So I'm going to use Decorators varnish, by Polyvine and Heavy Duty Wood Varnish by Polyvine. These are both in clear dead flat finish. However, this heavy duty one is much more flat. It is completely matte, whereas this one, even though it says that it's dead flat, it still has a little bit of sheen to it. And the biggest comparison is that heavy duty wood varnish is completely non-stick, whereas this one has a little bit of a tackiness to it. I want these to be completely non-stick. I would do complete varnishing with this, but the problem is that I don't have enough of it left. I need to purchase more. I'm like running like really on the last bits, so I'm gonna use this as my top coat or two. These varnishes are completely compatible. I have much more of this left, so I'm gonna apply 2 or 3 coats of this all over the blocks, and then I'm gonna apply probably 2 coats of this over the top on the blocks as well, so that we in total have around about 5 coats of varnish on these. The reason why I'm going to do so many coats of varnish, of course, is because these are meant to be played with, so they're going to be used and abused and so we want to give them the best chance at life as we can. So that is essentially what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this episode of Craft With Me here. Of course, I'm going to put in some pictures of when it's all finished and a video of them when they're all completely varnished. And yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I definitely enjoyed making these little cute blocks very much. It's not something that I've ever done before, so it was a nice little challenge for me. Once again, these images can be found on Digital Collage Club. And yeah, lots of love from my house to yours, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!